Hey everybody, this is Dominic, DeAngelo of WrestleZone.com. Today's date is September 30th, 2020, and I'm happy to have with me here again the guy. I think you hold the record now. You're my fourth time I've interviewed you, so it's the record holder, Alexander Hammerstone. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing great. I'll just add that to my list of accomplishments.
Right? You got plenty of accolades going on. So, that's kind of what I wanted to start off about. You kind of stayed pretty busy. We'll talk about the restart here in a second with MLW, but you were doing a little bit of bodybuilding stuff. How'd that go for you?
It went great. Honestly, it's definitely not like, I'm an avid weightlifter. I love, trying to get stronger, trying to get bigger, trying to stay in shape. But I don't really have the passion for competing in bodybuilding, I would say. But, during the whole, lockdown stuff, I was going nuts because I'm like a very goal-driven person. And, I like to put a target to aim for. And that's with my training, with my lifestyle, to feel like I'm working towards something. Mm-hmm. And to just kind of be drifting in obscurity for a couple months took its toll on my head. So it was good to set a goal and go after it and to accomplish it. But definitely happy to be back and wrestling again because that's the real thing I like to focus on.
Right. Well, so was it a little nerve-wracking? Like, say when you did it, yeah. Talk about what you won some of the stuff too, right?
Yeah. So I completed a couple classes. I won the novice class, first place, mm-hmm. and then I placed fourth in bodybuilding and third in classic. So
dang. Dude, yeah, I think it was pretty sweet to be able to go and do that. Were you a little worried that, like, once you got done with it, you were like, okay, now I got to get back into kind of my wrestling form? Or was that a concern for you, or were you pretty confident in your ability to kind of be like, all right, I know my diet, I know how I'm going to handle it, and it'll all work out?
Yeah, I was very confident as far as coming back into things. Just because, honestly, to come down to that low body size, that's a good thing because it strips everything from you.
Right.
And then to build back up, it's kind of a good thing. It kind of primes you for like a rebound almost. But it's funny because about like halfway through the bodybuilding diet, I remember I was like talking to my friends and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna, after this show's over, I think I'm gonna stay around like 220 maybe and just try to be like a little bit leaner, more athletic. And then as soon as the competition was over, I was like, nope, I'm going to
260. Screw that noise. That shit, I'm changing it up. No, well, something that I remember too, right, when that happened, you posted a picture of like all this like food that you were denying yourself to have, and you like it looked like you had quite the smorgasbord of junk food going on. Talk about that a little bit. How was that for you when you were able to kind of do that once more?
So the thing is, like, I eat basically like what people imagine, a bodybuilder diet. I eat that year round. Mm-hmm. It's only once the calories start to get really restrictive that my brain starts kind of tricking me and convincing me I want all this junk that I don't normally eat anyway. So yeah, I bought all this stuff and basically I committed to having one wild cheat day, I guess you'd call it. And honestly, like about halfway through the day, I was over it. I was sick of it. I'd eaten so much crap, like cinnamon rolls and donuts at McDonald's, and it wasn't even noon yet. But I had told myself, like, hey, I get one day to do this, so I just kept going and going. And like, I honestly remember, like, for the last meal, like, we were gonna do pizza, and like I almost backed out of it. And I was like, I didn't want it, but then we ended up getting it, and I forced a couple slices down, and I'm eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's, and it was honestly like I've had really bad hangovers, but nothing compared to how bad I felt the next day. Like trying to sleep that night, I had like heartburn. My blood pressure must have been through the roof. I could hear my heartbeat.
Holy shit!
I was indigestion. It was the worst I've ever felt in my life. And, oh God! Like I was like, man, there's there's some people who eat this every day.
Can you imagine that? Like, that's the thing too. Is like, I definitely like. I've been on like a Ben and Jerry's kick here and there, but it's like to imagine to eat that on a consistent basis. Like I mean, for you really had to like shock your system because like you're just throwing all this stuff in that your body's not used to, and but holy smokes, yeah, man, I bet that I've been there though, like where I've eaten stuff and I feel 10 times worse than I've had like a night of drinking or something in comparison to it.
Man, the entire next day was just like awful. I mean, all in all, I'm glad I did it, I guess, for some weird reason, but
yeah,
never again.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. Talking about something that's kind of supplemented, not nearest to the extent of actually wrestling and everything like that, but you guys have been doing MLW Pulp Fusion for the time, and I think it's such a really entertaining, short little thing that fans can still tune in with the current stars of MLW. How was that for you being able to do that? And you guys are still doing it. You and Holiday just ended the tanning wars officially. It seemed. You got him on that hot dog route, and he abided by it. So, talk about how that's been for you. Do you feel, was it more of a way to flex like your creativity, or did you kind of feel like, man, I just really want to get back to wrestling at this point in time?
I mean, for me, like I love all sides of wrestling, whether it's the actual physical part of it, but I also love the character presentation, the promo stuff, and I feel like that's really important because at the end of the day, what really grabs people usually the character, like whether you have great matches, like people will appreciate that and will respect you for it, but they're not even really paying close attention to know that unless they're already kind of attached to you for some reason or another. So to have Pulp Fusion as a way to continue to have that creative outlet and keep pumping out content and keep giving the fans, pretty much just, I look at it as a way of like giving them enough to remember that we're there, to remember that there's a reason that they want to watch us when we come back. Like, that's the kind of the way I saw it. So it was definitely fun, and I think it's definitely important because, for someone like me, like, when I realized, like, we were in quarantine, I was like, okay, there's no wrestling. So I started pumping up, the interaction on social media, the content. I tried everything. I was doing random stuff on social media all the time. Just because, like, I wanted to have, some kind of connection to the fans, and then Pulp Fusion, with extra layer. And for some of the people on the roster who aren't as interactive on their own social media, it's like that was their way of having, an outlet to the fans in general. So I think it was really important. I think it was very well done. I can't speak for everybody on the roster, but, as it always is with the Dynasty, we had very loose guidelines of what we do. A lot of weeks it was just like, hey, you got 2 minutes, get yourself over, and other times we had a little bit of guidance, but, Court always is very trusting that we're going to produce something enjoyable. So it was very fun. And if nothing else, get on Zoom and messing around with Holiday, it was a good time.
I know. You guys seem to have a lot of fun doing that. And it's like the chemistry doesn't fail when you're still on Zoom and anything. So you guys definitely, you have a good flow going. And, two, let's, I guess that leads me into the restart itself. It's scheduled for early November. You guys are going to be on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then re-airing at 10 p.m. on Fubo. And I hope, is that how you say the network name? I don't even know is that the right way, Fubo?
Fubo Sports Network. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. And then you guys are also now on DAZN too, which is awesome. So, talk about that kind of like just. It's been neat because Court's always making these deals and streaming and making sure to kind of get in touch with more of that. New wave of media engagement, and I feel like this is like something like DAZN is big time, and same with Fubo too. It's like those are big names, and talk about that process going in for you, like kind of knowing that those deals are happening from a wrestler perspective. How does that feel like, kind of being at the cutting edge almost, so to speak, with some of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting because, like Court is, kind of stressed, and I can't agree with him more, is that realistically, a lot of these streaming services are kind of like the future way that most people are watching their shows. You know, there's still people on Twitter trying to compare wrestling success by looking at TV ratings, but it's like, listen, like people aren't watching TV anymore. Like I don't even have TV in my house. All I have is a freaking a wireless connection for my to hook up my iPad to my TV and have a bunch of streaming options.
Yeah,
like all the streaming services. And I know a lot of people are in the same boat. So to put MLW on these different services, these different platforms, and to just be adding to it. A lot of fans go, "Hey, why are you going on Wednesday night?" Well, it's like, yeah, well, that's what we're doing on Fubo. Like, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. That doesn't mean that's the only time we're on. It's in addition to these other things we're doing. So it's really exciting. And I think kind of like the fire under the roster to know that not only are we coming back, but we're coming back, and we're going to be launching on these new platforms. So it's really going to be a telltale sign of like how successful our show's going to be right off the bat, and everyone, I can speak for myself and for a couple of people I've talked to, like we're all really fired up to make this a huge success.
Yeah, like I was reading a previous interview you just did, and they were talking about like how you as a whole roster have like a chip on your shoulder, and I think that MLW, like just being like writing for this MLW, like writing for Court and doing the TV recaps that I do, and then just following the process of how you guys have gone, it's like you guys have that standout brand and identity that I think that wrestling misses, and I think Court's so in touch with that kind of stuff of being like gritty, but also like good storytelling. Like I think you guys have the best continuity and attention to detail than any other promotion going. And I mean, that could be a little biased on my part, but I don't care. I think it's really good shit. So talk about how just kind of the growth in regards to the roster is going on, because the rumors are they're bigger, and there's going to be some familiar names that pop up, and also the teases that there might not necessarily be like talent that's been with MLW before.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I don't have a lot of spoilers for you. I've heard of one or two names that are going to be really exciting that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, and then there's just things like Calvin Takeman that was announced, and everyone knows we got this guy that has been lighting up the indies, and everyone's excited to see what he does on TV. There's going to be, Court basically said like this might be the largest roster we've had, and so we're going to have all these new faces, we're going to have all these new personalities, but in addition to that, it's like kind of what you alluded to with having this gritty presentation. Like I've always looked at it this way, like when we're rough around the edges, Court doesn't try to smooth us out. He doesn't say like stay in your lane. He says stay on the track.
Yeah.
So it's like we've had all these guys that have dropped in, and like they when they got off track, they've been no, get on the track, but you don't have to stay in your lane. You don't have to be this cookie cutter wrestler. And I found like over the last, over my tenure with the company, I've seen a lot of the new guys come in and really start to figure out exactly who they are on TV, what their personality means, what their character means, how they're presenting themselves, and they really dialed it in. So I feel like we're ready and we're primed to bring in some new talent and, figure out how they fit into the mix. And it's going to be a very interesting shakeup because I know like what it's like being the new guy and wanting to like make your impression and you wanting to stand out and wanting to reach, for the gold. But at the same time, even some of the members who've been on the roster for a while are still kind of in that position of like, hey, we haven't been here that long either. We still got our own goals. So I say it's going to be friendly, but I know first and foremost it's going to be really competitive. And everyone's going to be striving to put their best foot forward, and whether that's in storylines, whether that's in promos, whether it's in matches, So I think everyone's going to be really hungry, and this group of new guys is just going to add to that fire.
Yeah, man. It's like, and seeing and that's what makes MLW stand out, I think, is a lot of the diverse range of talent from all these different backgrounds, too. Because, like you mentioned, Calvin Tankman coming in, and then you have, like, guys from, like, Team Filthy, like Kevin Koo just got brought in, too. And all these different styles. You have the Lost Parks coming in again, and just, like, a little smorgasbord for people, but I think it all ties in very well because Court just knows how the balance of a roster goes, and I think it really stands out too that like you guys don't have a creative team or a writing team; it's more just a booking aspect of things. And do you kind of find because we're around the same kind of age and stuff like that, so like. When we were growing up, we were kind of used to seeing like, oh, you got to have a creative or you got to have this. Do you kind of have that when other talent comes in around our age and stuff like that? Do you kind of get that aspect of like those guys? That's the kind of impression that they have of wrestling instead of like this booking standpoint. That's more of a classic way to handle wrestling.
Well, the thing is, there's I've always looked at it this way, because, like, the thing with MLW is there's a lot of people back there who, if you need the extra guidance, if you need the extra points to follow, if you need the extra advice, it's there. But, like, when you're ready to fly on your own, they don't try to, pigeonhole you exactly how you need to be. My first couple months in the company, it was, I was worked with a lot hands-on, whether it was, people being brought in for, a single taping, kind of like guest veterans, I would say, or whether it was, specific parts of the writing, booking staff. I was working, they were very hands-on with me for the first couple months. And once it was kind of like, okay, this guy's coming to his own, he understands his role on the show, let's back off. I think some guys, like, it's really up to the individual. If they need a little bit more attention, to help bring out their personality or help steer their personality, it's there. But if someone comes in with all the confidence and know-how in the world, there's not, some freaking writer who doesn't understand wrestling trying to cut their legs out from underneath them and tell them exactly how to act.
Right.
So I look at it as the best of both worlds because the tools are there if you need them. But if you already came with your own toolbox, they just let you get to work.
Right, and just being able to showcase yourself and showcase, just the knowledge that you've gained throughout your career and that you've learned from other people and so on and so forth, and just what you bring too as a persona and personality. And something that I think is really, you just tweeted this out, like I think it was yesterday, was protecting your finisher and how important that is. And I think it's like, now I'm sure there's several other wrestlers that do that, but you're one of the most vocal about it. I think it's like you and Baron Corbin are the two that are really adamant about protecting your finisher, and I think that's so important today. And like, especially now because, like I said, we grew up around the same time, so it's like we were used to hey, that's around the time when everybody started kicking out of their finishers and making it a big thing, and it just became more and more common. Who kind of instilled that mindset into you? Like, hey, I got to protect this shit because it's how I end people, so to speak.
Well, saying as this, there's no way to not say this cocky. But there's some people who have a move that's their finisher, and then there's some people hit their move and people go, "Holy fuck, that's a finish."
Yeah.
And that's what the Nightmare Pendulum is. Whenever I hit that move, people go, "Oh, damn!" I mean, people, if anybody who's a freaking wrestling nerd knows it's based off the move from Japan. But if you didn't know that, you might have never seen it in the States before. I get a lot of comments from people, "Oh my god, I've never seen something like that. That's the most devastating move ever. That's the best finisher I've ever seen." So it's like I'm not stupid. Like I hear this, this chatter and this reaction to this thing. So why would I lessen it?
Yeah.
And even taking a step back, when I first started using that move, I didn't even use it as a finish at first. I remember specifically the first time I did it, or not, maybe not the first time I did it, but at least one of the first times I nailed it really well. I used it leading into a double down, and the promoter, I got to the back, and the promoter goes, "Why was that suplex move you did in the middle of the match not your finish? That's the coolest thing you did all night." I remember, hey, you're right, and that night I changed my mind, because it's like, if everyone was unanimously going, dude, that was the coolest wrestling move anyone hit on the show, and it's like, so why would I just let that be less than what it could be, you know? And it's like, even if my finish was something that was visually not as spectacular or visually not as, you know, impressive, it's in the wrestler's hands to create the mystique around it, to create the aura around it. So it's like, if I just always create this, you know, this mystique that this move cannot be kicked out of, like, then I did it, you know. So I just think it's an overdone thing that people do for pops, and also some people, they don't think long term.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll say this: very recently, I was working a guy, and you know, this is kind of peeling the curtain back a little bit far, but so be it. I was working a guy, and it was for something that was going to be seen by a lot of people, and we're talking about the end of the match, and it comes up, well, what if I hit my finish, and then you kick out, and then we went this, and then you hit me yours. And then it's like, why do you want me to kick out of your finish? And the reason he wanted me to was just because he wanted to hit the move. And in his head, hitting the move and like showing people this cool move was what was more important than not letting anyone kick out of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it, because there's times when I'm like, damn, like, I've been on this show, like, I really want people to see the Nightmare Pendulum, because it's a fucking cool move, and that might be why someone remembers me. But guess what? If that clip of me using it, and then someone kicking out of it in some random show in the middle of, you know, some random city on some indie show, if that goes viral on Twitter, then the mystique of my move on TV is gone.
Right. Yes.
And people don't think of that long term. They just think of like the instant gratification of, first, doing the move that they think is cool, second, getting the pop and the oh my god moment when it gets kicked out of. But it's like, if you can't figure out another way to get to that destination, then you're kind of probably lazy and uncreative.
Right. No, it's a really good point, because there's so many different ways. Like, obviously, like, if you're a talent, you love what your finisher is most times, I'd imagine. So it's like, you do want to do it, but it's like, yeah, pick and choose your moments, and there's plenty of other ways you can get yourself over throughout a match and tell a story that still kind of makes you stand out as an individual. So, yeah, man. Yeah, dude. No, I think that's just a really good aspect that you do not see from so much talent nowadays, where it's just like, why, like, even if you just had a DDT, like, the DDT is so overdone nowadays, it's just like, if that was your finish, why wouldn't you just, no, that should be the end of the match. That should be it. So,
I'll put it this way, if there was about maybe 2 years straight of my career where I used the bicycle kick as a finish, and it's one thing when you're in WWE and you're Sheamus and everyone knows you do the bro kick, but it's another thing when you're on indie shows and every jerk-off is doing 3 bicycle kicks in a match.
Yeah.
And I didn't care. You didn't kick out of mine. And it's the way it was, but people started to understand it and they digest it. And then if we built to it just right, and I hit that bicycle kick and someone kicked out of it, people lost their mind, even though in the match before there were 6 of them.
Right, because yours stood out. You were able to execute it, like, and I think from a story perspective, it's like you're able to execute it better than they are and nail it off. You know, they do it. It's in their arsenal, but it's not as effective, so to speak. So, yeah.
And, and people will say that doesn't make sense, but it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure me punching you in the face versus Mike Tyson punching you in the face is 2 different punches.
You're right. Yes.
You might get that, and you might fall down and get pissed off when I hit you. But if Mike Tyson hits you, you're going to sleep and you're waking up in a fucking ER.
Right. There's going to be a situation going on if Tyson hits you. No doubt. Something else that I heard in the other interview too was the interviewer asked about you being what about the potential of Dynasty being like cross promotion, maybe with like an AEW, because MJF, a former Dynasty member, or always, in my opinion, always a Dynasty member, will like wants a faction over there, or was teasing one. And I thought it was pretty cool. Your response was that you want the brand, like it's your identity with MLW that needs to stand out more so. Talk about the importance of that too as a wrestler.
Well, it's one of those things that's like, I by no means am trying to be the big fish in the little pond.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to do is be the fish that helps grow this pond.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that W has been growing and growing and growing. And in my head, I'm going, okay, so let's make it bigger. I want to be a part of it. And how do I do that? By making myself stand out, making myself stand out with this company. And then it's like, even if the opportunity did arise for me to go, play on the other show, it becomes almost like, almost less than, it's like, because it's like, you already know you're playing by a different set of rules. You're going to be presented in a different way. It's kind of like earlier where I show up at MLW and Court knows, okay, this is Hammerstone, go out there and do Hammerstone thing. You got a promo, give me this much time. Oh, you got a match, 20 minutes, give me the best match of the night. Whereas if I show up somewhere else, maybe it's a whole new set of rules, maybe it's follow this, and it's just like, you never know. It's like, whether it's MJF, talking about a faction, a couple months ago, everyone was losing their minds because, Cody called me out in a promo or something like that for the challenge, but it's like, you know what, like, if there's going to be a Dynasty reunion, it's more likely MJF appears on MLW. If Cody's going to wrestle me, it's more likely that he's challenging me for my national feeling championship. And that's just the kind of way I look at it, because I, by no means, see myself as the big fish in the small pond. I look at us as, we haven't had all the same, maybe we haven't had the same backing behind our product,
Yeah.
So it's like, we don't have, maybe, we weren't able to get on, a big network right off the bat, but that doesn't mean that we're not heading that trajectory. And that doesn't mean we have talent that's just as good on any day of the week. So to put yourself in any position where it's almost presented like, hey, here's the top guys at MLW, and they can open the show and do this little 4-minute segment. That interests me zero. It's just not my thing. I know for some people it would be, but right now I don't see the cards. I think most brands are kind of settling in to being more focused on themselves, rather than cross promoting. Especially like nowadays, like the contracts are just getting like deeper and deeper and weirder and more selective, and I just don't know how it's gonna go, but that's kind of my take on it for the time being.
Yeah, and I'm pretty with you on that too, because there's like fans are intrigued by that aspect of having, oh man, here's Cody, or I mean here's Hammer on Dynamite or something like that. Here he shows up here, and that's kind of neat. But from like each promotion has their own identity, and they are creating like MLW has your guys' thing where it's, I think, pretty darn standout, and it's very established in its classic ways, but in its diverse ways too. As AEW is a little bit more of an alternative for WWE, they still have like classic aspects, but there's a lot of different stuff that they put in there too that can be argued that needs to be put better together or whatever. But and then WWE's already long established their identity for better or for worse. So I think making your own pond stand out more, I think, is way more important. And kind of it goes back to what we were saying too, where it's like long-term thinking rather than short-term thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, if I showed up, on the other show and did the open challenge that, was the thing a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
And I did, it'd be cool for that night. It'd be some traction for that night. It'd be some attention for that night. And then whether subconsciously or not, then I kind of get grouped in with one of the guys who did that,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm the guy who showed up and then was gone, and then I was the guy who was presented this way. And it's just like, yeah, I'm more about the long term. I said, where's it going? Where does it pay off? What's in it? In the big picture, and I just didn't see it in those particular situations.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The grand scheme of things is way more important than just the immediate. So, yeah. So something we talked about in the very first interview I did with you was who were your wrestling influences growing up, and you said two big names that you mentioned were Chris Jericho and Triple H. I was curious now that you're more of an established talent and that you've created your own identity and who you are as a person. Is there somebody else that has influenced you more now at this point in time too?
Honestly, so from a wrestling perspective, I would say a little bit more Japanese wrestling.
Yeah.
Than prior. It was something I always enjoyed, but especially after traveling over there and doing the N1, just really being enveloped in it. I took so much of that with me, and no matter what people say, when people are in America saying they're doing strong style or saying they're doing Japanese style, they're usually doing some bastardized wannabe version of it.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that just don't translate the same. But where I can, I like to pull those influences into my matches, and that's a big one for me. But as far as influence as a character, I think I feel that a lot more from avenues outside of wrestling.
Yeah.
I stopped really developing any kind of personality or any kind of presentation from actual wrestling a long time ago, and now it's one of those things. If I'm watching a movie and there's a character that's just really engaging or really believable or really makes you hate them, I'm wow, this is good. Sometimes I'll even pull on my phone and take notes about certain lines of dialogue or things like that.
Yeah.
And that's really I feel that becomes the trick, because a lot of people will be able to put together their basis for how to present themselves based off wrestling, but you're basically do a little bit of copy and paste of what people are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to really take that to the next level is to take it from musicians or actors or politicians or all these other things that people aren't expecting to see in the wrestling world, to present something new. Well, it's still essentially a copy paste, or an amalgamation of other things, but they're not used to seeing it in a wrestling context. So now it stands out a lot more.
Right, and not only that too, but you're putting your own spin on it, where it's you're combining it with your own personality and who you are as an individual, and then making it your own thing. And I think you're spot on with that too, brother, because so many people are oh yeah, I'm so influenced by this guy in wrestling or that guy in wrestling, and I think a lot of that time it can work, especially if you dig way back and look at some classic guys or something. But if you apply pop culture stuff outside of wrestling, that's what made stars like Dusty Rhodes and everybody else, because they pulled from outside of wrestling. So it's all there. It's just a matter of yeah. I think that's super. You're super spot on with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to close out with a couple things. First off, how's your dog Hunter doing?
I'm watching him right now. He just looks like the laziest dog in the world. He got so spoiled over quarantine, just to have whether it was myself or my girlfriend home at all times, and he got to go on these long walks every day. So I thought it was going to be kind of stressful once real life started picking up and he had to be by himself. Mm-hmm. But I'll be gone for 10 hours and I'll get home and he's just laying in the corner. Doesn't even get up anymore. He's so lazy. Lazy old dog.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that, man. No, I'm at the point right now where I'm like, I got to get a dog at this point. Like, I have a cat, but I'm missing having a dog around the house. So it's like, I have a neighbor that works for the Humane Society, and so she's kind of been sending me pictures, and so I think it's going to be an inevitable conclusion. I'm going to get a pooch mixed in. So, now I'll close out with this. You're the first wrestler I'm starting this with. So I think you were the one that kind of tweeted something out about this. I think you were asking about playlist suggestions or music suggestions for a workout playlist, and it gave me the idea that I'm going to ask each guy that interview 3 songs that they would put on their playlist, and it can be from any time. Maybe one that stays steady on you, or one that's really like kicking for you right now. I know you're a Strokes fan, but it doesn't have to be Strokes. What are 3 songs that you would choose to put on a playlist?
Yeah, but the Strokes don't really do it for me working out wise.
Right.
So right now, I'm a revolving door when it comes to music, because like I use certain songs as like almost like an adrenaline hit, and it's like a drug. The more I use it, the desensitization happens kind of rapidly. So if I burn out a good song, I could do it in a couple of days if I use it too often. So currently, there's a group or a band or a guy, I don't even know, but it's called Carpenter Brute or Carpenter Brute. But it's like this weird electronica music, and let's see, what's a good one by them? They have a song called Turbo Killer. Besides that, I Prevail.
Okay.
That's the song Gasoline.
Okay.
That one, that one I've been using for a couple weeks. When I originally made that post looking for new music, somebody said that one, and I've been using it ever since, and it still fires me up. Like it's a PR song for sure.
Yeah.
And then let's go Under Oath. On My Teeth.
On my peak or on my teeth?
On My Teeth.
Oh, okay. Sweet. All right.
Those are some bangers, man. Like those are definitely like go-tos in the gym for the last couple weeks.
Hell yeah, man. You know, it's a selfish aspect on my part too, because I'm like, I got to get back to working out and the regimen of working out, and I was like, I need some new music mixed in, because I'm with you. There's like, I'll play a song over and over, whether I'm working out or not, and like almost to an obsessive point, and then I'll be like, all right, I'm kind of burnt out from this now. Like, I got to think of something. And so, I think, having a good mix of music always is a good, shot of adrenaline, so to speak. So cool, man. Anything else you want to plug? Oh, I wanted to ask you this too. You have such a diverse gallery of T-shirts. Is there a certain one that really stands out to you? What's your favorite one?
I think my favorite one is just the Tanometer shirt, just because it's so funny to me. Like, and it like, so I kind of had this idea like a couple years ago, like to put to have a shirt that was just like segmented shades, like starting at the top, like horizontally, like separated shades, starting at like white, then like kind of like darker, then finally like, and it was gonna like have like different names on it, like Sheamus at like the pure white, and then like finally at the bottom it'd be like 91 Hogan, and it'd be like dark red. But like that was like the closest idea I had to something like that. So then for MLW to come and help design the Tanometer shirt of me was like just so phenomenal. And the best part with those is, you know, a lot of times Court gets in touch with me and we bounce around ideas. Or definitely like in the final stages, if they have a rough draft, they'll ask me like, "Hey, how do you like this? What should we change?" But with that one, like, he just surprised me out of left field and was like, "Check this out." No idea it was coming, and it was like, it just blew my mind. So I was like, that is a masterpiece.
How about that? How about that? That's what's great too, is like we talked about that before, is like Court always seems to throw in surprises like nonstop for you guys, it seems.
Yeah, well, I mean, so, like, it's crazy because, like, people, I'm not trying to go off another tangent. I know we're wrapping up, but, like,
It's okay.
I'm on Twitter all the time, and, like, every once in a while, I'll, like, read something that I'm not even tagged in, but people are talking about me or why I'm at this place or how bad our contracts are at MLW. And it's like, I'm so happy with everything I have there. I'm treated so well. I'm on I text my boss whenever I want, and we have an open dialogue like that. And like I'm saying to you, like, he goes out of the way to design awesome merch for us to keep, during this whole, COVID thing, obviously we're missing out on wrestling revenue, but I had a passive couple $100 just deposited in my bank account because they went out of their way to design 8 shirts for me over quarantine. And it's like,
yeah,
I'm not paying, the artist to design those. I'm not paying any none of that, So it's like, Court really, for the guys who really invest themselves in the product and go out of their way for the show, because there's always going to be some guys who just show up, wrestle, go home. And then there's going to be the guys who show up and go above and beyond. I really feel like the company goes above and beyond for us. And, that's just one of the aspects. And if anyone listening hasn't seen the plethora of Hammerstone shirts available on Pro Wrestling Tees, definitely worth a gander.
Yeah, and you mentioned this too in the last interview, is how you were pretty adamant about having, like, not just black T-shirts. You wanted, like, colorful ones that, like, kind of stood out and, like, definitely, like, that people aren't used to, like, really getting into. And I thought, like, yeah, you want a little diversity going on that with the T-shirt game,
Yeah, a little something for everybody.
Right, a little something for everybody. There's nothing wrong with that. So, hey, man, anything else you want to plug? Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want, man.
Yeah, I mean, just at Alex Hammerstone on Twitter and Instagram, Alexander Hammerstone on Facebook. At the Hunter Boy 1 is my dog on Instagram.
What? He's on there?
He's on there.
What?
I don't run it, but it's pretty well kept. So
okay.
That's my new little tidbit to add to my plug at the end of the show.
Oh, man, you know what? I'm going to, that's definitely going to be in the first feature piece I write with this one. I'm going to include that in there. At the Hunter Boy 1?
I believe that's it.
All right, I'm going to do some digging tonight. So, cool, man. Well, no, thanks for taking the time to speak with me. Number 4 is in the books, so it's good to talk with you again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody, this is Dominic, DeAngelo, WrestleZone.com. Follow me on Twitter at Dominic DeAngelo. Follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. And go to WrestleZone.com for all your wrestling news needs. And follow the podcast feed to get this interview and so many others that we've been doing too. I'm really looking forward to the MLW Restart. It's been fun covering MLW Underground for the site and doing that week in and week out. So it's great. And I'm just excited to see what you guys bring to the table yet again, because you guys mix it up real well. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening.